So, why are stories, art, and media, why do I consider them spells? And the spiritual science behind that. So, I'm Candace McMillan, I'm an intuitive counselor, and we're here to talk about this today because storytelling is a ritual, right? Back in the day, way back in the day, I know all of us have heard of griots, right? And the legacy of the griot is that he or she kept the historical and cultural records of the village, the stories, right? All of this through music, chants, storytelling, in order to share these principles with the community, right? And so they were like the wisdom keepers, the historical keepers, and the cultural keepers of the community, of the tribe. And here's the idea behind it being a ritual. It's it's a great ritual, right? Just like anything, things can be used for good, right? Which is why the griot was fulfilling on their purpose for a good reason. And things can also be used for different reasons, right? And so I'll get into how that concept of the griot was co-opted and how it's used now. Like storytelling is a ritual, and music and dance and all of this is a ritual because of it places the audience, or not even audience, because we're participants, right? Participants, not audience, because in a ritual there's no audience, there's just participants. It places us in a trance, right? Because if someone's telling a story and it's a well told story, like it's a really good story, and it produces a cathartic experience, there's drama involved, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry. What it does is it puts your conscious mind like in a trance state, which is why we love to listen to great music, right? Because music is telling a story. We love to watch a great movie, right? Or a great series, right? Because it's all telling a story, right? And we all love a great story, right? That's why we have story time, and like we all love the stories. And we love, well, I don't love, but a lot of us love gossip. Those are stories too, right? So that's an example. Gossip is an example of using the storytelling as a bad ritual, right? I don't want to give it a name as bad or good, but it's using that ritual in a way that's not productive, right? For all parties involved, right? And so the stories, regardless of the medium that they're shared through, they put the participants in a hypnosis, right? And then what was done, and why someone was talented as a griot is because they were able to do this via their storytelling, and so drop subliminal subconscious messages in the listener's mind, right? And so the participant isn't consciously in a trance, but the subconscious mind, of course, is always taking everything in. And so, for example, if you've ever heard of a parable, right, and you've heard parables, we've all heard stories like parables, and they're always very interesting. They're very well told stories, but the purpose of the parable is to give you a hint of wisdom, to give you some wisdom, right? To give you some principles to live your life by, right? And so that's what storytelling can do, right? And that's what griots use storytelling. One way that they use storytelling, right? And so the griot was that was their spiritual contract. That was their purpose, to be a griot, to be a storyteller, and they use that power responsibly. Because when you are an artist, right, and you're delivering art, you're not just delivering art, you're actually birthing a being into this realm, right? And that's what your art is doing. Like, if you're a good artist, if you're an artist who is channeling and working with something outside of yourself, which most artists are, that's the function of art. That really is what art is, right? That you are birthing something. It's not coming from you, it's coming from another realm, and you're just a conduit. And so that's what the griot did, right? And so this spirit, this being is being birthed through the stories, through the different mediums, through the art, through the music, through the dancing, through the chanting, right? And it allows for them to be present and for them to do help to harmonize the community, help the community to have pride in themselves, help the community to be closer to love frequency, help the community to establish community with one another, right? All these beautiful things, right? Help the community become more wise on certain subjects, help them to learn and be educated on certain subjects, right? Help them to understand their past, help them to frame how to approach their present and their future, right? So that's the concept of the griot. However, in current times, the griot has been replaced by the capitalistic machine. And I don't mean to keep using this word capitalism, because I don't want to seem like I'm not taking like a political stance. I'm just looking for the right word. I mean, when I say capitalist, I'm not talking about a political doctrine or that I'm a socialist or communist. I don't take stance on that. I'm just speaking about that lens that you look at life through, as like everything is for consumption and everything is for making money or spending money, or through that lens of looking at everything as something that needs to make money, and everything is something that needs to be produced for consumption, rather than for healing. And so that's what I mean when I say that. Now, why my light turned like this? Okay, it is what it is. So I guess we're hitting on some points right now. So the griot has been replaced by the indoctrination that we receive through the media. So the commercial music, right? Television, movies, these are all things that if you're an artist, in order to be distributed via these mediums, you got to play ball with certain entities, and they're going to put out certain product, right? Because they're looking at their bottom line and looking to fulfill on their bottom line, so they're going to put out certain product, and oftentimes that product is not put out necessarily with the intention to uplift the communities that they're serving. It's just to sell you something, and sell you something by making you feel inadequate, so that you feel like you need this thing to go by, right? To sell you an idea that is beneficial for the system, but may not necessarily be beneficial for you, right? Beneficial for you. And for social engineering, right? To cause people to think a certain way so that they behave a certain way. If you think of one example of hip hop or rap music, right? It started out in the 70s in the Bronx. And it was music that teenagers made in the Bronx. And they created this music, and it was to uplift the community, bring people together. It's literally griot music, like straight up, right? They had block parties, they had parties, they had a whole culture that they created, right? And it was around having fun and bonding together and uplifting, bringing joy to the community. And it's such a it's a gift from the spirit world. It's a gift that those beings being birthed into that community at that time in the 70s when the Bronx was burning, right? When there was a recession happening, right? When New York City as a whole was experiencing a lot of issues. People around the country experiencing a lot of issues financially, in the Bronx dealt with the brunt of that. And so it was difficult for people growing up in the Bronx. But they created this music. And this culture around DJing and break dancing and art with the tagging, and all of that was a part of that culture. And it was teenagers, like kids, who created it, right? For the purpose of joy and fun, to bring that into the community, because that helped people to uplift the spirits of the people in the community. They were not talking about, in that OG hip hop culture, they were not talking about drugs. They were not talking about killing people. They were not talking about vulgar profanities and stuff like that. They were talking about just, style and having fun and partying, and they were being super duper creative. Like, that's what they were talking about. It was PG music. Where, you because it was kids listening to it. It's kids creating it and kids listening to it. So they weren't the stuff that they talk about now. I mean, I'm just saying, the subject matter was different. And so, because it has a machine behind it now, whereas before the machine was spirit, and the artist birthing that into reality, being a conduit for the spirits that wanted to bring this gift into the community. And when art gets co-opted like that, then it takes on a different form. And so in terms of coming back to a ritual, there are rituals that are done for good magic, and there are rituals for bad magic. So you tell me, if you turn on a song nowadays and somebody's talking about drugs and killing, you tell me what kind of ritual you think that is. I'm just saying, now I'm not being, I don't want to be judgmental. I'm not like putting anyone's music down that they may like and enjoy. It is what it is, right? But I'm just speaking about this from a spiritual, a metaphysical perspective. So I have to be responsible and in how and authentic in how I communicate it, right? And that's just an example that I wanted to give. There's plenty of other examples, but that's one that's current, that's right in my in front of my consciousness right now. So now we have this kind of machine behind art and media, behind storytelling, that determines what you see and what you don't see, right? If you can, when you consume art, when you consume media, when you consume stories via movies and music and so on and so forth, right? Because the machine controls the distribution. And I do believe that there's a propaganda machine, that because I believe that this system has society set up as human farms, right? And so the more control, the better. And so if I can control how you think, if I can control your consciousness, your energy, and your emotions, I can control you, and I can control the populations of people, right? Which makes it easier for me to fulfill my agenda, right? And so the griot concept, it's been hijacked a little bit, right? Because most of us are going to consume mainstream movies, mainstream music, mainstream media, mainstream stories, right? That's where we get our art from. The great thing about social media, though, is that it allows for us to build with each other as community, right? So that we can bypass the machine, if you will. I mean, the social media is, still a part of it, but it has this there's a silver lining there, that we can connect, right? And artists can do art and share art on social media, and they don't have to go through a mainstream traditional distribution system. And so we may, because of the fact that there's this systemic kind of hijacking of the griot energy, right, by this machine, right? It means that we definitely may benefit from upholding some sort of boundaries around how we consume art and media that comes from a mainstream lens. And so one thing I do, I'm really I try to be really careful about what movies I watch. Like I'll read the summary and look at the trailer first, and kind of I really enjoy independent films too, so I tend to often see those. And then I enjoy animated. I really love animated movies. But I'll make sure I'll try to make sure that I'm not watching anything that I feel like I'm not gonna resonate with this. I'm not gonna see it. Same goes with music, right? I try not to listen to things that I don't want to manifest in my life, right? Like, I really growing up as a child, like, I loved R&B. Like, that was my favorite genre of music, because I love the singing, the vocals, the background vocals, the arrangements, I love R&B music, right? But as I grew older, and I spent a period of not listening to much music at all, because I was kind of in a personal development kick. So I didn't listen to much music because I didn't want to put anything in my brain that wasn't like a book or something. So I went through that phase. And then when I would start to listen to music again, like the same music I was listening to when I was a kid or even years ago, I would be like, what are they talking about? And I'm very conscious of like the lyrics. I don't want to listen to any music that's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die if I don't have you. I can't live without you. Oh no, I don't want to listen to that. Any music about heartbreak and somebody doing you wrong and you not having what you want. No. So now I try to design like playlists that have lyrics of things that I want in my life. So, you know, the fuzzy love song that is just light and upbeat and joyful, you know. So just giving my example, but it's it may be beneficial to uphold certain boundaries around what we consume. But this also means that there's a call for people who are meant to be artists, creatives and artists, right? Not just visual art, of course, visual art, but also storytelling. Also, just people who are creative at just creating different ways of getting an idea out in the world. People who are filmmakers, people who are writers. Like, don't think that you need somebody to tap you and give you a contract, and you sign a contract, and they, you know, you have handlers and you work with a company just for you to have your art out there, your ideas out there, your creations out there, just for you to be able to share your stories out there. There is a call for creatives and artists, storytellers, right? Wisdom keepers, to create and share their art with no strings attached, without expecting to make money from it necessarily, without expecting fame, without expecting accolades, without expecting recognition, right? Without expecting anything. Because the art, the griot didn't make no money from being a griot. That's not the calling. That's not the calling. The griot was a griot because he or she was a healer. That's the purpose of art, is that it's healing. It's a ritual. It's a living ritual. That's the purpose of art. And so if you're an artist, if you're creative, you have to share your art. You have to share your wisdom. There's no like option for anything else. There's no looking at your art from a capitalistic lens and feeling like, well, if I can't make money from it, or if I don't get 1 million views, then I can't do it. That's not true. That one person who saw it, that could have transformed their life, uplifted their day. It heals you as the artist too. If you're an artist, you have to do art. You have to do art, because not doing art, and you have art within you, it causes a tension in your body that then you're holding. You have to release it. You have to release it in order to heal you. And in order to heal others, you have to release it. So I don't care if you do it in your spare time, in your part-time, on the weekend, you know, or when you get the inspiration. You have to share your art. And if you were gifted with the talent and the impulse, you have the responsibility. It's actually a responsibility, because you're a healer. And it's an act of rebellion. So the more art and wisdom and storytelling that we share, that we create with the intention of uplifting humanity, the more we counteract the art that is funneled by the machine, that dehumanizes people. So we have a responsibility to flood the marketplace with art, to flood the airwaves with art that has the intention of uplifting humanity, rather than the art that's just how much money are we gonna make off this. That's cannibalistic. Now, don't get me wrong, your art can make you money. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's a beautiful thing. It's actually a blessing if it does, right? But I'm saying that there becomes this, it becomes weird, this weird thing where when we're healers and we look at our healing from a capitalistic lens, that I'm only going to share it if it meets these thresholds. Or I'm going to edit my creations in order to, because I know that the marketplace may dictate that I could make more money if I edit it to sound or look this way or to be this way. So then I won't be as innovative. I won't be as authentic, right? Maybe I'll focus on things that are trending, and I'll be following trends, or I'll even though those trends and those things may not be uplifting people. You get what I'm saying? This is what the machine does with art. It bastardizes it. So what we have to do as an act of rebellion, and people who are creatives, who are artists, people who have wisdom, people who are storytellers, people who need to share, like I call on as many people as possible. Start that YouTube channel. Share your art on TikTok. Share your art on Instagram. Write a Substack. Like whatever. Like just get it out there. If anything, it'll help you to process this crazy thing called life, because sometimes there's no words for your emotions. There's no words for your energy. There's just getting it out and creating. And you're a conduit for spirit, and you have to make yourself available to the world in that way if it's within you. So with that said, it's a beautiful thing to be here with you today. Thank you for your time, your love, and we'll connect on the next video. Bye.